Okay, so let's talk about the phrase 3 degrees. It sounds pretty small, doesn't it? I mean, in our everyday lives, it's the difference between grabbing a jacket or not. But when we're talking about the entire planet's average temperature, well, 3 degrees means something else entirely. It means catastrophe.
And that's really the heart of it, right here. A 3-degree shift for you and me might just mean the snow turns into a bit of sleet. No big deal. But for the planet, a 3-degree average jump means we're looking at absolutely catastrophic heat waves, extreme droughts, and devastating floods. It is a completely different ballgame, and frankly, it's the future we're heading straight for, based on where things stand today.
And look, this isn't some distant sci-fi movie scenario. This is a reality that is already happening. It's transforming lives as we speak. Right now, our planet has already warmed by about 1.1 to 1.3 degrees Celsius since the Industrial Revolution. That's not a future projection, that is our current baseline. And the effects of that warming, they're already incredibly profound. You know, a number like that can feel abstract, but it's the story of real people, like Manara in Bangladesh. The rivers there, swollen by heavier rains and melting glaciers up in the Himalayas, literally washed away her home and everything she owned. Now she's one of almost 400,000 people who move to the capital, Dhaka, every single year for reasons just like that. Her entire life has been turned upside down by the warming that has already happened. So, if that's the present, how can we possibly know what's coming next? Well, we can actually project the future with a pretty high degree of confidence, and that's thanks to the incredible work of climate scientists all over the world. Scientists like Yuri Rogel have spent years working on these future scenarios for the United Nations. And these are not just wild guesses. The climate models they use represent our most advanced understanding of the planet, and they're built on data collected by hundreds and hundreds of scientists from all over the globe. So what are these models telling us? Well, if we just keep going with the policies we have right now, there is a shocking 1 in 4 chance we will hit 3 degrees of warming by the end of this century. Now, even if we're super optimistic, let's say every single country keeps every single climate promise it's made, there's still a 1 in 20 chance we end up at 3 degrees. Yuri Rojo puts this whisk into perspective in a way that just hits you. He asks, would you get on an airplane if you knew it had a 1 in 20 chance of crashing? No way. Of course you wouldn't. And yet, that's the best case path we're currently on. So, what does a world that took that gamble and lost actually look like? Well, the consequences would be absolutely massive, hitting the most basic things we rely on, our water, our food, and the places we call home. A 3-degree world is a world of crazy water extremes. On one hand, you'd have more than a quarter of the entire global population facing extreme droughts. We're talking parts of northern Africa seeing droughts that go on for years at a time. Then, on the other hand, you've got rising seas, maybe by half a meter by 2100, threatening the 10% of the world's population who live on low-lying coasts. So way too little water in some places and way, way too much in others. And that, of course, has a direct impact on our food. Over 600 million small-scale farmers are going to be incredibly vulnerable. You see it already in places like Guatemala's dry corridor, where droughts are getting longer, more severe, and causing crops to fail. This forces people to leave. Migration from Guatemala to the U.S. has already quadrupled since 1990. In a 3-degree world, tens of millions could be forced from their homes by climate disasters every single year. The loss isn't just about money or food. It's also deeply personal. The village headman in Toguro, Fiji, Barney Dunn, describes how the rising seas are literally swallowing his village. His relatives' houses are abandoned, and their family graves, they're linked to their ancestors, they're now under the ocean. The government has asked them to move, but how do you just leave your history behind? Beyond all these impacts, there's another danger. It's a hard, physical limit to human survival itself. It's a concept you might not have heard of, but it's one of the most serious threats we face. It's called the wet bulb temperature. So, what is a wet bulb temperature? It's not just about how hot it is. It's a measurement that combines both heat and humidity. See, we cool ourselves down by sweating, but when the air around us is already full of moisture, when it's really humid, our sweat can't evaporate. And if it can't evaporate, our body's natural air conditioning system just completely shuts down. And that brings us to this number. 35 degrees Celsius, or 95 Fahrenheit, on that wet bulb scale. This is the absolute limit of human survivability. If it gets hotter than that, it doesn't matter if you're healthy, in the shade, with all the water in the world.
Your body simply can't cool down. It overheats from the inside until your organs fail, you die.
And I want to be clear, this is not science fiction. These deadly temperatures have actually been briefly recorded in places like Jacobad, Pakistan, and in the United Arab Emirates. In a 3-degree world, huge parts of the tropics, the Persian Gulf, Mexico, and even the southeastern United States could start crossing this deadly line on a regular basis.
And that's the terrifying thing about it. You can't just adapt to this. You can't build a wall to stop it or plant different crops. When the very air around you becomes deadly, your only option is to get out. Entire regions could become unlivable for parts of the year.
So, when you're faced with a future like this, humanity really has choices to make. We can either try to adapt to a radically hotter, more dangerous world, or we can try to stop that world from ever happening. Adaptation can look like a lot of different things. We can build physical defenses, like seawalls. We can change how we farm, diversifying our crops so they're more resilient. And of course, we can rely on technology, like air conditioning, just to survive the intense heat. But, and this is a really important but, we have to understand that adaptation is not some magic bullet. It can help reduce suffering, sure, but it will not eliminate it. A whole lot of hardship is just baked into the process of heating up our planet, no matter how well we try to adapt. Which really brings us to the most logical conclusion of all. Adaptation is only going to get us so far. The best, the most effective, and honestly, the most humane strategy is to prevent this world from ever existing in the first place. But here's the reality check. Here's the tough part. Even with all the pledges and promises from countries around the world, global greenhouse gas emissions are still projected to rise by 16% by 2030. There is a massive, massive gap between where we say we want to go and where we are actually heading. And so we're left with this question. There is still time to cut emissions, to change course. The science couldn't be clearer, and the consequences couldn't be more stark. The choice of which future we end up with is still, for now, up to us.